medication that are from, we call it force or Western countries that we feel that they are also doing the right thing. If I may refer you back to the Aki issue, it came from what? Where? It's not from a third world country. It came from India. And India is no more a third world country. I think my advice to the chair and then the mover of the motion is, after the bill been passed, after the amendments have been approved, it's important also for us to have somebody who will be there, because it's not like the one coming from UK are all the best. Because you are not buying from the pharmacy or from the factory, sorry. You are buying from a source. Because if they are saying that the pharmacy cannot supply you because of the demand, because Gambia's population is very small, that's why they cannot penetrate our market, because they are looking for fast money, but they're looking for money that they can get back in return. If it's like we must have a mediator who will be supplying us as Gambia. If that mediator is there to supply us as Gambia, I think we need to know who the mediator is and who is he dealing with here in the Gambia, because a lot of things can happen. When this Aki issue came, we were following it on both the Gambia and outside the Gambia. And I think the revolutions were coming. People were using fake medication with other countries' labels. Made in USA, made in America, and then when it comes here, you feel like it's from America. So I think there must be a thorough check on this. And if the labs comes in, even if they come to the Gambia and it's come from this UK or America, there must be a proper test to make sure that the one that people are consuming the right thing. But not because it's coming from UK or it's coming from America, it is fit for consumption. I think we have to do it with those things now and learn from our lessons. Because the one who went to India to procure that medication, that cost almost 70 dead, was he there? He went to the factory to procure the medication, but did he give them the specification that he felt that was fit for Gambia? Because I always ask this question. India is saying no, the product was good. It was tested and it passed its test. But Gambia is saying no, it didn't pass the test with what? WHO. The one buying, the supplier is going to buy from them. I think the supplier also needs to be very, very careful with the way when they are buying, they must buy the right thing at the right time and at the right place. Because if you come to the Gambia and say you want to buy bread, there are different kind of bread. Bread that I can use as an average person, and bread that I can use as, how to call it, the middle class and the low class are also there. But the one you are buying, don't see Gambia as a country of people who cannot afford it. I always say when it comes to medication, go to Serekunda today. People don't have the money to buy it. They cannot afford to buy the best medication. They go and queue medication that we feel they are very cheap. But are they passing the test? Are they the right medication that we should consume? So the chair, I'm also advising you, if possible, when this thing is passed, let's do the needful. Our side is coming from UK, it should be passed. From UK, if all that the pharmacy, the lab is here, let them go through the proper test and then be qualified and then fit for consumption. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the member for Parliamentary.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Member for Nianija and the chairperson of the Health Committee. First, I will thank you very much for bringing in this motion for amending this particular section. And also thanking you for making or for considering the lives of Gambian people so important for having access to good quality of drugs in the Gambia. And of course, I don't think we should waste more time because this is very, very important, of course, because there are scenarios that happen in the Gambia here. And then it might be, I'm saying it may be, because of the bad drugs, because we haven't got the results yet from the Aki results. It may be because of the bad drugs that those kids 70 or maybe above died because of the bad drugs or bad medications that we happen to have in the Gambia. So if a member coming up with a private member bill of amending such a section or a clause of having access to good quality of drugs, I think you need to be applauded for that, and I applaud you for that. And I don't think I'll waste much time, but I'll also join colleagues of passing this bill. And then, of course, I'll also appeal to members of this parliament to also join me to pass this bill, since it is very, very important. But also, I will also advise that we cannot just stop having or trying to get having access to quality drugs in the Gambia. But I think this needs to be monitored very well. There should be constant monitoring and also having access to quality or testing drug laboratory in the Gambia. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Mentoring. I now invite the member for Woolly East.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I thank the member for Nianija for coming up with this amendment to solve a very important gap in the importation of medicine. I think I would agree with the member for Central Badibu that in the wording under objects and reasons, the way it's put gives you a different interpretation. And I had the same thinking initially until I do some research on it. I think this is medical language. One has to be used to it. Medical language, registration, and listing. So if you don't know what is registration and you don't know what is listing, then obviously you can get lost. Let me put it that way. Initially, like I said, I was thinking that when you say stringent registration or regulation on registration, then that would help us. Because if it is stringent for anybody to come and register, that is stringent, we thought that would be beneficial to us because good medicine will come. That was my thinking. But after reading later, I come to understand that that is in fact the reason why the amendment is coming. Because if it is stringent and countries, like the countries that are already mentioned and the region that is mentioned, have difficulty to come and, knowing that it's a very small market. You go to Malak, you ask for allopurinol. I just went there, allopurinol. They say it's finished. Allopurinol is brought by only Malak. So because of this stringency, for them to bring medicine from Europe, it's difficult. That's why not every pharmacy can bring it. So I think registration and listing are two options open to the MCA. What they are saying, let's make it a bit open so that we'll be able to get medicine from other areas, good medicine from other areas that we would not have otherwise got from our traditional sources. And we give them the option of listing now. Before it was just registration, but now let's give them listing so that when we give them listing, they'll be able to also make their findings. And if they make their findings and found out that a particular drug is needed in the Gambia and it is good, even though it is not registered, they can list it, and the importer will be able to have the opportunity to bring that medicine in smaller quantity to the Gambia. And Gambians also will have access to that particular drug. I think that is the objective of this amendment. And if we understand it, I don't see any controversy in it. And somebody has already said, when we go to South Africa, we are knowing all their medicines now. No, I'm just saying. So maybe just some, like he is thinking, we can just do some. Well, you can do that. You know how to do that. The objects of reason, that's not part of the amendment itself. It's just a way of explaining it to us. So on that note, I think we should all support this and allow our people to have access to good drugs from good sources. Like the other member also said, sir, it does not necessarily mean also that every medicine that comes from UK or Europe or America is a good medicine. We all know the vaccines that were provided by the United States has caused a lot of problems for people who are vaccinated, to the extent that some women don't even want to marry to some of those men that have been vaccinated. So it does not necessarily mean that all the medicine coming from there is good. But if our MCA had done their findings, thorough findings, and discovered that this particular medicine is very good, well, they list it and then they bring it to our country. I think that is the issue. On that note, I thank you for bringing this good bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member for Wuldi East. I now give the floor to the member for Fonye Councillor.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And I thank the chair of the Health Committee for putting measures that are very helpful. I will concur with the finding, more so the particular tail end of objects and reasons that says maybe scarcity of quality medicine, particularly essentials and life-saving medicine. I'm not a pharmacist, neither a health personnel, but I have a lot of people who are working in that sector. I think of this year, there was a time where if measures were not put in place, we could have been, a lot of scarcity of medication. And I think going through this amendment will ease and make sure we have open supply. I could also sense this. The open supply doesn't mean there will be no measures. Looking at those countries that I mentioned, I know most of us as National Assembly members, the Indian medicine and that of UK, if it is laid, the paracetamol, you'll prefer that of UK. We all know standard base. These are facts that are there. But the other thing that I also want to put across to the chair of the committee, in as much as registration process is done, by the deliberation that I'm hearing and as per your objection reasons, it may not be from the manufacturer itself, maybe, a third party in UK. I want the committee to put this at the back of their mind, that proper scrutiny should be laid to those things in order to avert what we have seen the past about this Aki thing. Though it's from the manufacturer, but now it may be from the company down to another third party, then to the Gambia. So these are consideration facts that we need to work on. And again, also, I believe testing is key, in terms of, working towards that medication. We all know this is just like military. You don't have armor, ammunitions, you will not be able to defend. So in the health sector also, if health sectors are facing scarcity of drug, I think we'll even end up not even coming to parliament. So I believe so, in as much as it is going to be something that will be laid off, but we need to do proper scrutiny in this. And again, also the committee will make sure not only changing the act, but you can also be one at a time, doing oversight. It's very important. You could change an act and still, as you have said, difficulties, the bureaucracy in place to make sure it follows the chain. So these are all factors that I also adore the committee, to work on it and also be following issues of regulation. So I believe we are in line and we will work towards supporting this bill. But we will not also leave you alone. We will also be checking your bag to see that the Aki thing will not be a replica of this. On that note, I thank you, and the support is given for this amendment to happen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, I now invite the Honorable Member for Nianija to respond to issues raised and wind up the
Sorry,
debate.
Honorable Speaker. I raised my tag and you asked Deba to record me. I don't know what happened. Sorry. Sorry for interjecting. My tag was raised and I could see you talking to Deba to write my name. I don't know what happened.
It's not here. But anyway. No, don't worry. Just you can have the floor.
Good.
Oh no, according to him, this time you didn't raise your hand. You raised your hand during the previous one, not this one. But please go ahead.
No, I'm not dribbling. I raised my tag. But thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have to applaud you for that gesture. I promise you I wouldn't stay long, but I also promise you I'll be tough. Because what I'm saying is, it seems like 90% of the members here are part of the Health Committee. So we have to be tough on ourselves. Yes, we are making laws. We have to be tough on ourselves. So this was the first page I wrote. I've discarded it. I have a new one. But to start with, I want to commend the chairman of the Health Committee and the members, because if you look at the objects and reasons for the bill is to avoid scarcity of essential medical products in the Gambia together. And basically what they are trying to say is the traditional processes, if you import medical products to the Gambia, you're the importer, you need a certificate of analysis. But drugs coming from America, Europe, and other countries, having that certificate of analysis is a problem. So I'll get to that particular component. But where I want to start first is, let us not isolate the situation. This whole thing started from COVID-19, not so, last year. When COVID struck Gambia, we realized that there are loose ends. But mark you, those contaminated syrups did indeed have a certificate of analysis. They went through the rigorous processes, and yet still they were found to be deadly. And here we are saying the manufacturers in Europe do not want to go through those vigorous processes that we are having. My first question is, how sure are we that this law we are trying to amend would not have unintended consequences? If with the certificate of analysis and all the layers of control you have, you were not able to what? Stop the importation of contaminated syrups. Now you want to loosen those controls. We understand we don't want to have a situation where we would have scarcity of essential drugs and it might lead to fatalities. But what happens to controls now? And the other thing I want to ask is, we know that the committee did engage all the stakeholders after the COVID outbreak. This particular amendment you are coming up with, was it highlighted in your recommendations to this plenary? And if so, what was the resolution passed on it? We want to know, because we know that what the committee is doing now is premised from the COVID report. If this plenary did indeed sit over it, what resolution did we pass? And again, one of the fundamental things that was highlighted during the COVID investigation was the gaps in the medicines and related products act. What happened to that? Was this the only challenge highlighted in it? Or are we expecting a complete overhaul of that bill? And if so, why are we bringing this one as a piecemeal? What is the urgency attached to it? But primarily, my submission is based on this. And it's based on, I would guide you to paragraph 3 of the objects and reasons, which states that it is clear, one face value, that the revenue for any manufacturer for or import to sell to a small economy such as the Gambia for such products is objectionable. Meaning normally they wouldn't sell to the Gambia because they wouldn't have much profit. Manufacturers are hesitant to submit themselves to the rigors of the tedious registration process. Honorable Chairman, I want to know whether we'll be safe with these amendments. I know we are doing it for good reasons. For very good reasons. We don't want to have scarcity of essential medical drugs in this country. But here we are, will be what? Peeling off the layers of control, just to satisfy the entry of those drugs. And we had a situation when all those controls were present, but contaminated drugs were what? Imported. If you look at the amendments itself, which should be on page 1 of the bill, I will refer you to clause 3, amendment of section 26, where the committee is saying they are proposing the insertion of clause 5 after 4, which should read, notwithstanding subsection 4, the agency may adopt a mechanism other than registration permitting a person to import, distribute, sell, supply, or exhibit for sale any medicine or related products manufactured or produced in the UK, US, or a country in the European Union. What are we exempting? Section 5 is exempting registration. And by registration, we mean after receiving the certificate of analysis, you take it to MCA with your samples and they will register the products. I don't have a medical background, but I was lucky to work as a financial manager for one of the biggest importers of what? Medicine in this country for 5 years. So I know a little about the process. So which means now, we are saying they can do without the registration. And these medicines will be assumed to be fit for the consumption of society. So my last question will be, we know MCA will come up with these mechanisms. What consultations have we done? And what guarantees do we have that those mechanisms will be adequate to safeguard our greater society from what we experience in the COVID-19? On a final note, Honorable Speaker, I believe if all other factors arising from our debate are sufficiently answered, this bill or this amendment would be timely. Because having reliable supply of what? Medical related products is a national concern. And all of us wouldn't shy away from definitely adding our weight to make sure that the bill is passed. But the points I raised are really there to me, and if the committee and the Honorable Chairman can definitely provide answers to them. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for being very kind. Thank you, Honorable nominated member, Kebalam Popona. You raise important concerns, and as a Pan-African and someone who have no faith in the West and their products, must be critical in this at this juncture to definitely ask the member and the mover of that motion to definitely explain to us the real reason behind not registering, and what kind of mechanism do you want us to adopt, and what amount of faith do you want us to have in these products that have been supplied to us. Because this is a sensitive matter which contains life and death. And for the fact that it is sensitive, it inculcates so many things. You see, today, if we are, Honorable Speaker, I will not stay long. If we are to stop importing these chemicals to Africa called drugs, the reason as to why they are called drugs, we don't know. But if we are to stop exporting them, because you and I know, our great-grandparents, we are living from the stem of the plant, the root and the leaf, and used that as treatment. And they were living longer than you and I, with the advancement of health, and we are still dying. And now you are telling us that you don't want this medicine to be registered. What mechanism are you going to use? And those registration has any side effect or whatsoever? We definitely want to know. Thank you.
Thank you, member for Fonyi Bintang. Honorable members, I want to suspend the assembly for 1 minute. Yes. Yes. The assembly is suspended. Members, the House now resumes. Honorable members, we will continue from where we stop. I now invite the Honorable Member for Nianija to respond to issues raised and wind up the debate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, once again. And I sincerely want to thank all honorable members who took part and even those who didn't take part in the debate. It is for a good cause and for a good reason. And it is only right if you don't know, you ask. And if you are in doubt, you also seek for clarification. So I appreciate all your positions and your point. But I just want to make little general clarification before I even go to some of the specific. I had some people mentioning, making reference to the COVID-19. Honestly, as far as this committee is concerned, it has nothing to do, or this amendment has nothing to do with the COVID-19 issue. You can relate to the AKI, one can understand. Yeah. The other thing that honorable members also keep repeating saying, the issue if the committee could do also this thing. This is a private members bill addressed in my name, despite the fact we wanted to do it as a committee bill, but unfortunately it couldn't. But it's a private members bill addressed in my name. So whatever issues or queries that you have, you can ask, and then I will do my best to justify. And I also wish to thank my committee members because we work as a team. Thank you very much once again. I will first of all start with some of the issues that are highlighted. I know many members have commented and others have said it is for a good cause, and then I wouldn't waste the time of the assembly to repeat what they have said. But I'll just answer the questions that people keep asking. First of all, I want to clarify, probably it's an issue of language with the objects and reason and the amendment. Maybe it's an issue of language, and definitely I agree. But the purpose of objects and reason, that's the memorandum, is just to explain to members the rationale behind it. And if it is not explicitly understood by members, they can ask, and then I can explain whenever I am called on to, like I am doing right now. So if you looked at it, the main rationale as far as this amendment is concerned, I have some jottings that there is a practice already been done by the Medicine Control Agency in the place of registration, whereas a medical product cannot be registered, they apply the measure, what they call listing. And this was part of their regulation, gazetted and legal, but unfortunately, I have to mention when the AKI Commission, the Presidential Commission came, they declared it as it is illegal, it's not part of the act, and it cannot be continued. So the board also met over it, and they made a decision conveyed to the Medicine Control Agency that henceforward you only have to apply registration, because as far as listing is concerned, it is not in the act, despite it being in their regulation gazetted, what they said otherwise. So that's what prompted us as members of the Health Committee to come up with this measure. It's just a matter of continuity, because it already started, but they have to make a halt to it. If you look at the rationale behind listing of medicine and related products being imported into the country is a good practice, and it is essential to have an inventory or a database of all products that are used in the Gambia. It involves collection of data, information, and the product and its manufacturer and supply. So there is no like zigzag way or back way thing. Every step will be followed. This also serves as an important tool for products recall and in tracking and tracing of illegally imported and suspected substandard and falsified counterfeit products. So all these details will be taken care of. And like other reasons, the Gambia pharmaceutical market, as explained in the object and reason, is very small, and these companies or these manufacturers in this, what they call the stringent regulatory authority, and then I know when we come to the committee of the whole house, we will propose further amendments to explicitly explain certain things and probably change the way the language is being spelled out in some part of the amendment to make sure the issue of stringent regulatory authority is captured. So if you understand what it means, these are highly regulated countries, and they are up to 30-something in number. The Americas, the UKs, they are all part of it. So the practice of listing of unregistered medical products manufactured in the European Union, United Kingdom, and United States of America is also adopted in other countries in the West African sub-region with small pharmaceutical markets such as Sierra Leone, Liberia, and so on. So we are not doing it alone. This should have been part of the principal act since the act was promulgated, but due to one reason or the other, they only opted for registration. And some members highlighted the issue of lab. I want to make it categorically clear. If you look at our report, the AKI report by this very committee, we've indicated that there is no lab under Section 30 of the Act, make it mandatory that lab should be established, and that lab has nothing to do with the Medicine Control Agency. That is the responsibility of government, and we recommended accordingly as far as our investigations and findings reveal. So it's the responsibility of the government to come up with a lab and then test any medicines that has been imported into the country. And in that, I want to highlight again, I want to update the Medicine Control Agency. They have come up with a measure that all medical and medical products be imported into the country. Anywhere it is coming, they have a measure, whereas they will take sample, do the necessary testing, maybe they have contracted some labs outside, that they will do the testing, and once that is done, then they will give them the import permit and they will be allowed to sit here. It's not like how it was before. You import based on the documentation that you provide, whether it is falsified or whatever, and they will leave you like that. No. They have said now categorically clear, and they have communicated to all importers that before you import any medicine, we need to test it. And I think that is being employed. That is a step in the right direction, despite there is no laboratory presently in the country. And also, MCA budget allocation for the construction of lab, as far as the member for Kiang West highlighted. This is true. During our report, we made mention of it, and we've recommended accordingly But if you could recall, there was only additional sum of 3 million or 6 million that was added to the MCA budget. So you cannot say that will construct a lab. But as we were promised by the minister during his response to our recommendation that they have secured a funding from the WHO and they are going to start construction of this lab very soon. So it's an issue that my committee will follow with the Ministry of Health and then find out about the progress of the construction of that medical lab. So he also asked, what are the implications of trading with these companies? As I said, we don't intend to mention any country, but you cannot shy away in mentioning countries when you are referencing certain things. There is nothing special in these countries, but you need to make reference when and where necessary. If you look at the countries under the stringent regulatory authority, all these countries are part of it. That's why we just have to take out some of these highly regulated countries to make reference to them, because we all want to have these quality medicines. We all understand and we all believe medicines from these countries, before you even have the access to be selling them to their citizens, they have to go under rigorous testing, under rigorous scrutiny, and make sure they are fit for purpose. And the members of the central body, as I said, the objects and reason, as I said earlier, these are just explanatory notes for you to understand the merits behind the bill. And if it is not speaking in line with the bill, I definitely agree with you to an extent. Probably is the language, but the objects and reason clearly, as it should state, the purpose of the amendment is to provide for an alternative measure to registration. And this bill does not necessarily mean products will not be registered in the Gambia. No, every product imported in the country will be subjected to registration. But in cases whereas registration is not possible due to the availability of certain documents or due to the trusting of certain regulatory authorities outside the Gambia, definitely they will have no other option but to employ another mechanism that is listing. And then if we only want to maintain registration, we risk lacking of good, efficacious, essential medicines from these markets. So it is not definitely intend to maybe to mislead the amendment also, but its language, I agree, probably it can be furnished better. And then the member for Joshua also highlighted the issue of drugs. He said the AKI drugs that caused the cases of the AKI came from another country that I don't want to mention. And I want to state that there is no country in this world that if you don't depend on Indian drugs, you will have the good or the necessary, all the medicines that you need to supply to your country. We have to depend on them because they are one of the major manufacturers of drugs in the world. But whatever that we are bringing here, we need to make sure our regulators are on track and they observe all the necessary process and procedure to make sure it is fit for purpose. And then in that, this assembly has a responsibility to make sure we give effect to Section 30 of the MCA Act, and then we see how best we can have a lab in this country. That is the only way forward, not having an alternative measure or testing drugs outside the country. He said, when the bill is passed, we do the needful. That I can assure you, myself and my committee, we will do the needful. We are doing it before, and you can attest, all can attest, even during the AKI. And then we will continue to do the needful. We are not just seeking for amendments and put it under the carpet and move on. We will make sure we monitor it and we monitor everything that have to deal with the health sector. We understand there are other challenges, but as far as we are concerned, as far as we know, this is one of the many few challenges. Maybe other members too can come with members' bill, and even the committee can come with committee's bill to address certain things of the health sector. I think that was a very justifiable and then honest opinion that you gave as far as the issue is concerned. I can't agree more with you. We are not abandoning registration, but we are just trying to employ an alternative measure to registration. And it does not give them free package to come and then dump here any medicine that they want. That is not the case, and then that is not the interest of us, because we represent the people. Whatever that here tomorrow, if our people take it and they have problems, we will be held accountable and he will be held responsible. Pony Councillor, he says proper scrutiny and then proper testing, as I said, as far as the committee is concerned. Be assured we will continue to do the proper scrutiny. And for testing, as I said, the MCA have employed a measure that they are currently undertaking. And then nominated member, Keba Lang Fofana, he asked very important questions that definitely I will do my best to answer. He said drugs from SRA doesn't have certificate of analysis. That is true. If you don't buy directly from manufacturers in large quantities, they cannot supply with certificate of analysis. But in any case, even if you buy from wholesalers or other things, there is a substitute certificate that they will give you. Sometimes they call it certificate of conformity or other names they call it. And those are the documents that the MCA will rely on to fulfill the process of listing. That's the alternative method that they employ in the place of registration. But if there is certificate of analysis, they have to employ the registration method. And then registration is a very rigorous process. Likewise, the listing. They are all very rigorous process, and they undergo certain things to make sure all these things are, all the requirements that they have in their guidelines are met. He also said, how so are we that the law will not have unintended consequences? I can assure you, being the chair of the committee, where we have conducted several consultations on this with the different stakeholders, not from today, since the onset of the AKI, and then even of recent, personally, I have several consultations with many stakeholders about this, and then there is no way we are amending this, and then at the end of the day, we intend maybe to do some hijacks here and there. That is not the purpose. The purpose is for a good cause, because we are afraid, and we have been approached as far as we represent the people, that even currently there are consignments of medical items being quarantined at the airport, even at the seaport, because they don't meet the requirement for registration. That does not mean that these consignments are not good or these medications are not good, no. But because of the current law, we have only provide for registration. And the process of registration, you have to meet it to be able to, according to the guidelines that is available at the MC, you have to meet it to be able to register this. But in case, whereas you don't meet those guidelines, that does not mean the product is bad. There are other measures that they can employ and make sure the drug is safe, efficacious, and is of good quality, and they employ that mechanism to make sure we have it in the Gambian market. A honorable member just cited, he went to a particular pharmacy that I wouldn't mention. He was looking for a particular drug, he couldn't have it. As I tell you, and if we don't definitely amend this law, I can freely tell you at one stage or the other, we will run out of medical items. Because even hospitals personally have started calling me, please help us so that we can change some of this provision for us to have medical, good and efficacious medicines. Because they import from other countries and they register, and once you cannot meet the criteria for registration, they have to employ other mechanisms. So in case that mechanism is not put in place and we insist on registration only, we risk lacking some of those medicines. He said, he also asked still on the nominated member, was the amendment highlighted in the AKI report? That I will happily say, yes, it was highlighted in the AKI report. If you look at recommendation 13 in our report, we've highlighted that, and it was well captured, and it was definitely adopted by this very assembly. So we are not doing anything behind the scenes, but we are doing things that based on the knowledge we have, based on the investigation we've done, based on our oversight function, based on the evidence we have before us, and then we are bringing this. And don't be surprised if we come up with other amendments in other areas too, because we are concerned and we are interested, and then we are definitely stakeholders. We will continue to come up with some amendments which we think that they are fit for purpose. We cannot come up with every other amendment because the medicines and related products have many gaps, like the internally generated revenue of the agency. As far as I know, it is lodged into an account. We've consulted them, but still there is no way out. It is lodged into the account, nobody have access to it. They only depends on their subvention and so on. And that it needs to be regulated in the Act. But that does not meet the criteria for a private member's bill. It can only come as a government bill. So we will engage the ministries, see how best they can come up with those amendments. And many other things that cannot meet the criteria for bringing a private member's bill. Because as far as you know, a private member's bill cannot come giving effect to charge in the consolidated revenue fund. We are limited to do that. The Honorable Member for Fonyi Bintang Karanai, he also echoed on similar comments like the Honorable nominated member, and he was also advocating for traditional medicine. If you could recall, when the Pan-African Parliament report was late here, there was a resolution on traditional medicine, and I said this is a step in the right direction, and be assured a bill is under promulgation, that is the Medicines and Related, the Traditional Medicine Act 2023 is already under promulgation, and it will come to this very parliament very soon for enactment. Because as you said, coming from the provinces too, I know what are some of these traditional medicine, but it needs to be regulated. We can't just give a free pass to it. So that's why it is coming in a form of bill for us to regulate it better. So I think basically that's what I have, unless if I skip any other thing.
Observation.
Unless if I skip any other thing, please observation.
Observation.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think you only skipped one question which I asked, which was about the Medicines and Related Products Act. Do you have any plans of overhauling it since many gaps were realized as per the Aki report?
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Honorable. I think I did mention it. There are certain provisions in that act that the committee cannot bring as a private member's bill, likewise any other national measurement member. But the consultation is ongoing, and the ministry is determined to bring in an amendment or even a total overhaul of the medical regime in the country to make sure they bring a bill, and then we sanitize whatever, we tighten whatever gap that is loose in some of this. It's not only that, there are many other obsolete acts in the health system. So they all need to be reviewed and then bring here for enactment. But as far as I am concerned, we are limited in that, so we all can only do the advocacy through the ministry for them to bring it. So basically, that's what I have. And then, in the absence of any other thing, I want to thank everybody, especially honorable members, and equally want to thank the two leaders of the parliament, that's the majority leader, the minority leader, who have been very supportive, who have been definitely very understanding too. Likewise, the office of the clerk, I definitely have to thank you. And then I want to upload the legal office of the clerk, because once I did my research, send it to them, they have been going up and down. Even late night, they will call me to maybe tighten here and there. We are definitely blessed that we have the brains here now, in-house. Whosoever is interested to bring a private member's bill, just consult them, and they will do the needful. So definitely, Office of the Clerk, congratulations, and thank you so much. We are grateful. Thank you for the speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill entitled Medicines and Related Products Amendment Bill 2023 be read a second time. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk.
Thank you. Motion. Be it resolved.
Clerk. Read the subtitle.
Bill. Second reading of the Medicines and Related Products Amendment Bill 2023.
Honorable members, in accordance with Order 68-1 of the Standing Orders, the bill is hereby referred to the Assembly Business Committee for committal to either a committee or committee of the whole Assembly. Thank you. Clerk.
Thank you. Motion be it resolved that this August Assembly do consider and ratify the UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property by the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, stepping in for the Minister for Tourism and Culture.
When is the majority? The Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I respectfully move that the 1970 UNESCO Convention on the Means of Prohibition and Prevention or Preventing the Illicit Import, Export, and Transfer of Ownership of Cultural Properties be ratified by this August Assembly. Introduction: the Gambia has many of its cultural heritage outside of the Gambia in Western museums. This is because of the colonial experience when colonial officials looted and or illicitly removed objects of spiritual, religious, cultural, or natural heritage as war booty or merely seized to satisfy their curiosity and collectors' habits. When Musa Molo, king of Fuladu, was arrested and exiled to Sierra Leone in 1919, his collection of jujus, guns, and ostrich were confiscated. Most found themselves in the hands of British Museum or private collectors. For the Silas war drum, or tabala, was seized and taken to UK in 1893, when the Emir of Combo was deposed and exiled to St. Louis in the present-day Senegal. Cultural objects were looted by British soldiers and officials from the Sankandi and Bateling in 1901, and from Salikenye following punitive expedition by British soldiers in 1894. In his memoir, Captain Huntley, who was governor of the Gambia in 1841, said local drums and string instruments seized from griots in battles were taken to the British Museum in 1842. Indeed, from almost every Gambian constituency, cultural objects have been taken away from and are found in Western museums, including the British Museum. In 2018, the French President Macron initiated a task force to look into the issue of African cultural objects found in Western museums and collectors. The Savoy-Sarr report, named after two experts, Féolin Sarr and Benedict Savoy, who undertook the research, has listed 35 objects from the Gambia found in the Musée de Quai Branly in Paris alone. This is an indication of the huge amounts of Gambian heritage lodged in foreign hands. The Gambia should therefore ratify this UNESCO 1970 convention before you, the honorable members, for the following reasons. 1. As we speak, there is a groundswell of efforts in the ECOWAS space for the restitution of cultural goods illegally taken outside of Africa, mostly during colonial rule. ECOWAS Heads of State Summit in 2019 ratified the ECOWAS 2019-2023 Action Plan on Restitution and appointed His Excellency P. Talon, President of Benin, as ECOWAS champion for restitution. Benin has so far worked out diplomatic agreements with France, and 23 objects taken out of Dalmi Kingdom in 1890s have been restituted. Nigeria had hundreds of Benin bronzes restituted. Senegal has had the sword of Sir Omar Fouti Tall restituted. All told, there is earnest movement towards restitution. The Gambia will not be left behind when we ratify this important UNESCO convention. Specifically, the Gambia has hundreds of cultural objects, archival documents strewn in Western museums. The Sarr-Savoy report commissioned by President Macron in 2019 has revealed that Francis Quayle Branly Museum has in its catalogue over 35 cultural objects taken from the Gambia from the 1880s to 1905. Our ratification of the UNESCO 1970 Convention will assist us to start the diplomatic discussions to ask for restitution. Restitution is a human right. The 1997 Constitution of the Gambia provides for cultural rights for all Gambian citizens. the citizens of our republic have the cultural right to assess the handwork or handiwork of their ancestors as inheres in these cultural goods found abroad for enjoyment, education, and research. These cultural objects belong to our national patrimony. Restitution will enhance our cultural milieu, enrich museum collections, promote tourism, hype up our sense of national identity, and restore African dignity. Our ratification will enhance our cultural standing. The Gambia government is building a mausoleum and a museum for the founding President Alhagie Sadauda Kairaba Jawara of blessed memory at the National Assembly premises. The edifice will be, when completed, the first purpose-built museum in the Gambia. It will be able to handle some objects restituted from the foreign museums, including photos and objects linked to Sadauda and the Gambian struggle for independence. Ratification will help the Gambia better protect its rich archaeological sites, such as the Stone Circles, Kunta Kinde Island, Berefet, Sani Mentereng, Kachikali, Folonko, Tamba Sansang, Pirai Tenda ruins, etc., from pillage and looting. Once we ratify, UNESCO 1970 Convention Secretariat will avail the Gambia technical assistance, capacity building, and advocacy for restitution, including training on restitution and return advocacy for the relevant select committees of this House. Consultation. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture has initiated consultation with relevant stakeholders on the convention since 2021. In that year, an ECOWAS advocacy mission led by ECOWAS Commissioner for Social Affairs visited the Gambia for 5 days and met the stakeholders to update their understanding of the UNESCO 1970 Convention. They met National Center for Arts and Culture. They met the National Center for Arts and Culture Board, Ministry of Tourism and Culture officials, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Justice, the Chairman National Assembly Select Committee for Culture and his committee, and tour guides and museum curators. These working sessions were very useful as the stakeholders were taken through the 1970 UNESCO Convention, its provisions, benefits that could accrue after ratification. Therefore, there is a local committee comprising technicians in heritage and law on the restitution issue. In May 2023, the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture visited Abuja, Nigeria, and was also briefed by ECOWAS staff on the need for Gambian ratification of the convention. Furthermore, 2 staff of the National Center for Arts and Culture have received training on the UNESCO 1970 Convention in Accra in July 2023 and in Dakar in March 2023. The National Center for Arts and Culture Act 2003, the Gambia Culture Policy of 2018 to 2028 have expressed provisions for the prohibition of export and set terms of export permits for heritage. Therefore, the provisions of the 1970 Convention are fully domesticated in the NCAC Act of 2006 and the 2018 Arts and Culture Policy. The NCAC Act 2003, the Gambia Arts and Culture Policy, for example, provide amply for protection of heritage by setting requirements for export of cultural property, as in Section 37 to 43 of the NCA Act of 2003. No permit shall authorize the removal from the Gambia of any ethnographical article except through a recognized custom port or airport, says Section 41(2) of the Act. There is a provision in this law for compulsory purchase of ethnographical articles by the NCA when it deems it fit to save an object. Gambian law also protects archaeological sites from illicit excavation and illegal retention of objects found therein, as in section 27(1), which provides that a person shall not, without any written consent of the center, excavate an ancient monument or ancient walking. The NCAC Act also provides for the protection and regulation of activities of museums and galleries through a licensing system in section 31(1). This helps in regulating the retention, display, and disposal of heritage objects. These provisions in the Act help to regulate art and ethnographical object market players, cultural good dealers, and exporters. The Act also calls for national inventory of heritage objects and sites. Currently, there is an ongoing activity to inventory the built heritage of Banjul, the Gambian capital, with support from UNESCO. Financial commitments. Ratification of the 1970 UNESCO Convention does not require any commitment, financial commitment from the government. Prayer and recommendation. The honorable members are hereby requested to approve the ratification of UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, Honorable Minister of Tourism and Culture, I beg to move on those terms. Thank you.
Thank you. Any seconder? The member for Upper Saloum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for bringing in a very important ratification to this Parliament, particularly dealing with our artifacts. And it's actually very clear that the reason why some of them, they prefer to write our history is some of these things, actually, because they've stolen our items for quite a very long time, just to kind of erase our history of this continent. And I urge the historians of this country to try to rewrite the history of the African people. Honorable Speaker, this convention by UNESCO, and first I must also want to thank the ECOWAS for their stand, particularly His Excellency Talon, for taking the lead to ensure that all these illicit or looted items that belong to the African people are actually returned. But I think I may even further go and state that these artifacts actually have been making millions for them in their museums or in museums across the, across the world, particularly in the British. I think the President, Talon, who's been tasked to oversee, must also start to work on refunding monies that were earned by these museums for things they stole from the African continent. They need to start to work on those. Now, if you have the opportunity to visit some of these museums, you realize a lot of history is being kept. Again, they're trying to erase the history of the African people for their own selfish interest. This ratification, I think, is important. And I think it cannot come at a better time when Africa is trying to be itself for quite a very long time. I know for now, they've only seen maybe 35 objects for now. And I think we must do all what we can as a parliament to ratify so that the president actually can complete the process so that we can bring back artifacts that belong to the Gambia. These artifacts are actually important because if you talk about, Fode Silla or Musa Mola and among others, what they have done for this country in terms of resisting, particularly our culture and also Islamic beliefs. So I think it's important that we start to celebrate them. We need to bring these artifacts where we can house them and to be able to teach our own children what they have done for this particular country. And Honorable Speaker, I think it's also quite important to also state that this parliament must be able to stand and support the creation of a new museum for the National Council of Arts and Culture. We need to have that. These artifacts must have a home. These artifacts must have, in fact, a well-furnished home. You go to the National Museum now, everybody knows exactly where it is. But it is so small. And we need to support the ministry and support the NCAC to ensure we build a very formidable home for these artifacts so that people can go and visit. Students can go and visit. The tourists can actually go and visit to see exactly what the Gambian actually have done for the past few years. Again, I think it's really very straightforward because it has not contravened the sovereignty of the country, and there's no financial implications. And these are the two very fundamental issues that we need to look at as a parliament. So I want to thank the minister for bringing such a ratification to the parliament, and I don't think there'll be any issues on this. But I must urge also the members of parliament to, particularly the Committee on Tourism, to work with the stakeholders to ensure we support the building of a very, very, very good home for these artifacts, together with other artifacts we have in this country. We must preserve our history, and we must rewrite our own history. We must not depend on people outside this Gambia or outside this Africa to write our own history. I want to thank you, and I want to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for seconding the motion. I now put the question. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Assembly to consider the UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Honorable Majority Leader, you wanted to say something before the...
We just want to apologize to the entire House. The dinner is not provided. So as a result of procurement issues, it was late, and then also apologize and want to sincerely apologize on his behalf. And we will thank you so much for your understanding. If you can sort an intervention.
Minority Leader and Member for Brikama North. No? Actually, you are first on the list. Member for Kantora and Majority Leader.
Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker, having said that, I think I will be very brief, knowing that promise has been made and then it wasn't met. I want to thank the Honorable Minister for stepping in for Minister of Tourism, Art and Culture. It's very, very apt, and we want to thank the government of the Gambia for aligning themselves with the UNESCO Convention in trying to trace our history. Culture is very important. Culture creates identity of who we are as an Africans. So as a matter of fact, cultural artifacts speaks a lot about us. So I think it's important that we join this movement that will help us with this convention to retrieve those valuable cultures and bring them back to our museum and make them attractive. One thing we are really actually losing or failing to do as a country is how to connect tourism and culture. Over the years, tourism is the focus, how to create bumper tourist market, how to create hotels, how to bring in tourism here and then earn money. But we are also losing sight in connecting the cultural aspect of it. We need to promote our culture through tourism. So tourism and culture must be speaking in line. And I can see the trajectory of the Ministry of Tourism is now how do you promote culture through tourism? So I think when this is approved, it will serve as a mechanism whereby when we lay our hand on these stolen cultural artifacts, we can really equip our museums. It serves as a revenue generation. The benefit of this thing is a lot. So not only bringing tourism, enjoying our sunshine, our beaches, and go back. You need to attract them by creating that cultural artifacts, that museums, taking them to up countries, ecotourism, and co. So I think without wasting more time, we are in support of this bill, and then we want to avail the entire parliament to really support this bill at the soonest possible time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the member for Central Baribu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this convention ratification is long overdue. A convention that has been in place since 1970. And I believe this parliament will do justice in ratifying something that is there to promote our culture, our identity, who we are as Africans. Honorable Speaker, our culture has been arrested and our cultural artifacts were looted, taken outside this continent. So if you have a convention that is reclaiming our lost glory, our lost symbol, our lost identity, I think it will have a smooth sail on the floor of this parliament. Honorable Speaker, of recent, Benin, due to restitution, they reclaim a symbol that worth millions of dollars or in euros. These artifacts that we're talking of, what the Honorable Minister made mention of in the various parts of the country, everybody will see yourself in. Everybody will begin to learn something happened in this country. This is going to build the interest in research, and it will also promote interest of students to do history, to learn what happened in the past. Honorable Speaker, our tourism, as alluded by the majority leader, should not be focused on the sunshine or the beaches. But the culture, how we are as Gambians, will also need to be known to outside world. But we can only know it through the heroic deeds of our people. Make mention of Samori Toure, Musa Molo, for the Kombosilla, for the Kabadumbuya. And we have great warriors in Badibu Salikenya, too, who are not also mentioned. We have, the 4 days. We have a lot of 4 days in Salikenya. So those 4 days also had confrontation with the British. And British, as stated, they attacked Salikenya and took some of our resources away. Up to now, they are not found. But if we can ratify this, we will have access in their museum to bring them back to this country. Honorable Speaker, the museum that is now constructed at the former president's tomb, I have a recommendation. This parliament, the Ministry of Tourism need to come with a budget. We need a modern art museum in this country that can accommodate these resources that we are trying to bring back. It's not this. This area is too small. We need to progress. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's not limited to only tabulos. Even our valuable resources, our gold mines, we are taken away. So I think it's high time we pass or we ratify this noble convention and we start resourcing the museum, the arts and culture is not well resourced, Honorable Speaker. If you travel outside the country, you see arts and culture in other countries. Gambia is a shame. It's an insult. Even its location is an insult to the entire nation. So it's high time this parliament, we really look at it. We try to find a land to relocate them and build them a structure to preserve our heritage. I thank you all, and I believe it's not controversial, but today is not a lecture that we are giving, but we will learn something that will warrant us to get something from the people who came here, abuse us, rob us, enslave us, jail us, to at least have our valuable resources back. I thank you for bringing this convention.
Thank you very much, member for Central Baribu. I now invite the member for Opanyomi and Majority Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I just thank the Minister for stepping in for the Minister of Tourism in order to lay this motion before the members. Honorable Speaker, the motion before us is to ratify prohibition and prevention of illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural properties. And this has been a convention since 1970. I don't know the reason why it's coming now. Because since 1970, there were parliaments that were existing in this country. Why bringing it now? So as it has been mentioned by the Honorable Member for Central Badibu, it's long overdue. So we should have had this ratified a long time ago. Honorable Speaker, when this bill is ratified, it's going to resuscitate our culture and our identity, no doubt. And it's going to rejuvenate our history and bring in appetite into our history as well. And the Honorable Minister mentioned about Kunta Kinte Island. There were objects that were stolen from that place. But like I can tell you that, Honorable Minister, the island is in dangerous situation and it needs to be restored. The island is being eroded by the sea. We have lost the original size, and day in, day out, it's getting eroded. And we have been advocating for it to be reclaimed to its normal size, so that the future generation coming can benefit from what has been transpiring in that island. So I think and I hope that when these items are recovered, and the proceed has been mentioned by Honorable Member for Upper Saloum, these items have been, bringing a lot of money for those people who have stolen them from us, the British and the French. They should also come up with a compensation mechanism for making us losing a lot of millions of dollars or pounds or whatsoever. And when those monies are available to us, it should be used to develop those historical places that have been mentioned in your motion. And therefore, in order not to take the mock time of the Assembly, thank you so much for laying this particular motion before us, and I urge members to support it. Please, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now invite the member for Talending Kunjang.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. They say better late than never. Members are decrying the lateness of the better late than never. It is very important for Gambia to be part of this treaty, for the National Assembly to ratify this treaty. Hearing from the mover of the motion and going through a few clauses that I had the opportunity to look at just now. This will go a long way to revamp our arts and culture unit or department, etc. Every country has a history, and we teach this history to our kids. That is why we have them in the curriculum. And I'm happy that the mover of the motion said something about Fode, Musa Molo, Fode Kaba, etc. And some of these items are not found in our museums, and their stories are in our history books. And there are so many literature in our history books that could have been very enriching had the artifacts been available somewhere for the people to see, but they're not there. We just read it just in our books, but there's no imaginary thing in front of you as a student to feel the living history that of your country. And this is missing. That's why even the love of history as a subject, it cannot be promoted, cannot be enriched in the schools. When the artifacts that should help it are missing. Before I forget, I did drums up a question in my mind. I don't know, the mover of the motion might not be in a position to ask it, but the technician is behind it, I don't know. Is the Gambia in position of an inventory, some sort of all these potential artifacts that might have been stolen, or we might have missed in some sort? If the Gambia or the Department of Arts and Culture with an inventory of this kind, so that we know what they are pursuing, we know what you're going to claim, or is it from henceforth after signing this agreement they are going to engage in a research to find out whether they are going to roam between museum to museum to look for it also. But I want to know if there is already an inventory of some of these very important this thing. I read one or two. I understand being part of this treaty will avail state parties, to promote the development and establishment of scientific and technical institutions, laboratories, museums, and etc. This is Article 5C. This interests me a lot because sometimes these museums, developed countries, have developed scientifically to enrich some of these scientific artifacts they have discovered. And then they have laboratories to look at them and study them. I know, I'm sure, I don't think it's a speculation if I say there's no laboratory concerning this kind of things. We don't have the scientific technology to even look at artifacts and say how long have they been underground. In which year this might be. They have those things. So I know the developed countries are parties to this convention, to this treaty. So if Gambia becomes part of this treaty, we can share this technology with these state parties that are parties to this. So this is beneficial. And also, I see supervision of archaeological excavations. I don't think this is taking place in the Gambia, but we could have places where if we dig further, old settlements, we can have, lot of enriching artifacts that tells us past generations that this country has gone through. So if some of these things, we've never explored them, this agreement is going to expose us to those things. So I think, generally, I give my total support to the ratification of this treaty. And I hope, like previous members have said, what is more fundamental about this retrieving some of these stolen or lost artifacts is, if you bring them, where will you keep them? And that tells you, in modern countries, in developed countries, you see how they invest in museums. If we want to portray that we love our culture, we want to teach future generations the importance of culture and tradition on our patrimony, we must invest in where they are kept. I'm sure if now you bring some of those artifacts to our National Museum now, they will never forgive you if they had a soul to complain, because of the way they are kept there, the status of where they are now, and where our National Museum is. So it is crucial that the standard, we have a very good standard National Museum that is up to date, that can accommodate these artifacts we are going to claim. And that gives a good impression of us as a country that we respect our heritage. And I believe that the ministry, if I did not misquote the mover, he did mention something like that, and I think they will do everything possible to ensure that those things happen after ratifying this thing, because I have no doubt that members do not have any objection to this. This is something that we all need. We all have to enrich our history. We all need to ensure that, you know, Honorable Member Mbow raised a very important issue, claiming the income that the people that have stolen these historical facts have generated. I have not gone through the whole treaty myself. I don't know whether there is avenue to pursue those ones. If there is, it's definitely on track to do that. Definitely. With those few remarks, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Member for Talending. I now give the floor to the Member for Fonya Councillor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I thank the mover of the motion for this. You know, I could also concur with members. You know, it's at this best time. You know, my issue with this is, we know the UNESCO Convention is in line and is for the best interests of us claiming our ownership. And I believe in those claims, this is a convention that we are ratifying, but I also believe if measures are put in place for us to recover our objects from various affected countries that had looted happily with torturing minds of our people. And today, you know, you could see a lot of affection that has reigned to Africa and more so our country as large. You know, there must be strengthened measures that they need to pay as much as the way we are affected. You know, it's not only, okay, we in France, as the Honorable Minister has alluded, about 35, you know, seen so far. You know, I believe in our colony, Britain, maybe more. You know, so these are all issues that I think is greatly affecting the well-being of Africa. And we will never forgive them. And we will continue to pray that forgiveness will not be done unless and until it is brought with a heavy compensation to the lost glory of our culture and a lot of heritage that they have also distorted. And I also believe the arts and culture, you know, the director is also here. It is time for us to rewrite our history. It is time for us to, you know, inform our people what had happened. You know, you could see a West will come and teach us our history and also tell us this is what has happened. So when we have our own, we'll be able to at least give proper references. The life of Musa Molos, the Fode Silas, these are great people. But today, they were captured and maltreated. A lot of things that they have did. So I think Africa will never forgive the West unless and until, as I've seen, you know, thing in UN where the French president publicly announced and said forgiveness for Africa. I think the onus is on them to at least reflect back. Today, most of those countries are made great of their resources, great of a lot of men in terms of their production. It's because of Africa. So with this convention, I don't think we will waste much time in this. And I think it's in the best interest of us. And he has also alluded that based on this, training is also anchored in this, where staffs have also benefited. Honorable Speaker, I will also agree with members, you know, that the National Assembly is used as a reference where they're building, where some of these artifacts will be put in place. I think it's high time for us to develop better mechanisms, you know, for us to have structures that will be fit for purpose. This is a National Assembly. And we are thinking of expanding the National Assembly to build and accommodate members in other areas. If we could still have this compacted here, sooner or later, they will also think of moving to another direction. So I think with Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, they should make this as a priority to see where they can locate this, seek for funding, include it in the budget to make sure we have a standard museum. When you travel to other countries, when you look at their museum, you will even think of ours, where if you look at it surrounded by the State House, it's not even durable. If you look at the artifacts that are there, a lot of challenges that they are facing. So when we have it a better place, better environment, well built and furnished, it will also serve as an instrumental thing for us. So, Honorable Speaker, I believe that with this, the convention is in the right track, and our culture, our values, what they have did to our forefathers, great-great-grannies of that continent of Africa, it is high time for us to put a mechanism so as for us to charge them. They should face consequences. Not only returning it free and they go and say, okay, this is a year. And sometimes the saddest thing of it is when they are doing their presentation and say, okay, these are African artifacts, they're here. You don't even see any remorse on their presentation. So I believe they owe a lot explanation and they owe a lot of compensation to the African people. And I also thank the ECOWAS for their stand to see that it is continental or countries within ECOWAS region and most of Africa in the restoration of some of those remains or objects. We are in it, and we believe that is the best way that we can, and also for the betterment of our country. And I also solemnly agree with members that Minister of Tourism and Arts and Culture should look at a specific land that they will be able to at least look for funding in conformity with international standard. UNESCO, after passing or ratifying this, could also gain a lot of attractions and revenue. So as for us to see, not only seeing that story building here, in the National Assembly, for what? And if you look at our National Museum, go there. You see the way it is. It is environmental friendly? No. So I think it's high time, if we are really serious as a country, or we are really serious to make sure we safeguard the artifacts of history, not to be distorted. I think we could better do it and also seek for better location. Honorable Speaker, with that, I think I can end here. And we are in line. For this, it has no problem. And we are happily to say that we will see the remains of our forefathers and the remains of our great fighters that had even built Europe to be Europe. And today, they are even happy. And they've also used those materials, expired, and they have gained a lot of revenue. So I think we could also be backdating in terms of asking for dues. When was it taken? We can calculate periodically, yearly, and so that we surcharge them for the failure to loot our resources happily and maltreat our forefathers for only their benefit. It's sad. Look at the pre-colonial era or the history. They sell mirrors for our people, tobacco, whatever, simple facts. So it's really sad. So that's why we will not forgive them, the West. Either they know it or they don't know. We will never forgive them, and history will continue to narrate, and we are asking them to pay back all the defects that we have faced as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the member for Nyamina West.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I also take this as an opportunity to join my colleagues to thank the Honorable Minister for tabling this for ratification. I will also thank the Line Ministry and also the Directorate, since I was opportune to work with them before coming to this place. So I was introduced to many of their activities and plans before coming here. So I thank the director for a hard job that he is continuing. Honorable Speaker, I will also thank the French president who came with that thought, because many presidents has passed through that, and many presidents are in the West that who never thought that way. Like my colleagues alluded, or the Honorable Minister, artifacts of 35 species found in France alone. Then in all together, in totality, in the Europes and Americas, imagine, do that mathematics, imagine how many will be lying there for the Gambia alone. So that is a big thing in totality. And the importance of these artifacts cannot be overemphasized. Some of my colleagues have mentioned it here that it generates income, obviously, and that taken from the period that these artifacts were gathered in the overseas to date, who knows how many income is generated for those nations? How many income have we lost over the period? Honorable Speaker, the importance are numerous. I can spend the whole night mentioning them. One of them, as you can attest, identification. Artifacts belongs to. Artifacts help you identify a group of people or a culture of a particular people. An example is some of the artifacts that ourselves we have within us here. By interacting or seeing it, you don't need to question. You yourself can really attest to which of the tribe or which region or which area or which group of people it belongs to. Another important thing is tourist attraction. It can also help on employment generation. So the importance are numerous. One most important that I attach to them are appreciation and communication. Artifacts are well known for appreciation. In the olden days, our great-grandparents used to give each other presents in the form of artifacts, and these are well appreciated, and it goes long way. Building communication between two or a group of people, and yet still some of these artifacts are used to present from a nation to another nation for appreciation. So therefore, supporting or ratifying this UNESCO instrument is very important to this August Assembly. So I don't hesitate joining my friends, and equally, I know all the members in the Parliament, we are waiting for this important instrument to come before us for ratification. Another important aspect that I will not left behind is the issue of compensations that they said. Yes, a lot of income must have been generated. As I alluded earlier, a lot of income that we have also forfeited in this our own materials that were taken away from us. So how best or how will we channel to see that we receive some compensations? The other aspect is that through this, the depression and the pressure that we have received from our great-grandparents, people like Musa Molo, as mentioned, cannot be forgotten. It will go a long way before we forget this. So, in conclusion, getting back these materials will also help our university as an institution of education for research and it will go a long way in supporting our students to read the history of the Gambia. Honorable Minister, Honorable Speaker, at this juncture, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member for Nyamina West. I now give the floor to the member for Wuli East.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we thank the Attorney General and Minister of Justice for standing for the Tourism Minister to bring this very important motion to ratify this convention, UNESCO convention. Honorable Speaker, we have ratified the underwater artifacts here, which was also very interesting. It's almost the same thing, except that that one is underwater, this one is general. But they are all the same. This is very important to us because we are talking about prehistory, we're talking about history, we're talking about our literature, past literature, and we're also talking about archaeology. So people who have stolen that, people who have looted those things through illicit trafficking, etc., of our cultural property, is what we are talking about. What did that deprive us of? It deprives us of our culture, of our dignity, of our knowledge, of our pride, and all those things. You will remember that one of the European countries, I cannot remember whether it's France or UK, that stole the voodoo god, symbolizing the voodoo god in Benin. And they were following that until they got it. But when they got it, you could see the celebration. It looks like their god has disappeared. Their whole life was dependent on that God. All the belief was on that God. But when they took that symbol, it's like the God itself has disappeared. And that has damaged their whole spirit. Their whole spirit is damaged. So that's what it has done to us. When you take these things away, you definitely make us lost. And they say where you don't know where you come from, you wouldn't know where to go. And that is what is happening to Africans. Since many people are lost from where they come from, they are yearning to reach somewhere, and they cannot reach there, another culture, and they have lost their culture. So the culture of the African is with the so-called illiterate people of Africa. People have not gone to these conventional schools. They are the custodians of the African knowledge. And I believe we must go back to those people. They will tell us the history that they have. The rest will be achieved through archaeological means. Honorable Speaker, like I said, we have been disconnected from our culture. And we must commend the ministry to help us to make sense of this lost heritage. And so many restrictions were placed so that we'll not be connected to these heritages. And still now, whether we know it or not, this is continuing. Because our countries are considered poor, and our people are poor. When they produce these things, they still cheaply sell it to these people, and they just take it. And like the minister said, sometimes they'll even come to Africa to fight. And when they are going, they loot these things and go away with them. So this convention is here to help us to ensure that that does not happen. And I believe what other members have said is to begin now, so that what we have missed then, our children and our grandchildren will not miss that. Our people have been producing hoes. They've produced axe. They've been dealing with iron for a long time, hundreds of years. They've produced spears, and so on and so forth. And some of those things are still with us. So before they all get lost, our blacksmiths had furnaces, tunkang. They were producing iron. They were turning iron into anything that they want to turn it into. Any tool that the society required, the blacksmiths would do this. And then the people were entirely dependent on their own tools, their own materials to survive. And our people were also producing autography. Whether we know it or not, it's just got lost. They had their own writing. But all those things got lost until the Europeans come and even tell us that we don't have a civilization, which was a lie. We had civilization. They've made all those things to disappear. Some of them were disappeared through disasters, others through wars, etc., etc. But we had all those things. So our history must be rewritten. As I said, we must continue to collect those things and build durable museums and put all those artifacts back to ensure that our children do not lose the opportunity that we have lost. I know even now you have people who have written the Quran, translated the Quran into Mandinka, into Pular, into Wolof. And those manuscripts are still with them. If you go to my home, when the people are translating the Quran, they don't just stand up and translate. They will read the Arabic version and they will read the Mandinka version, and all that is written by them. And that is perfect. The way it is written is perfect. And those manuscripts have been written very long time ago. So we don't need to miss all those things. Our weaving materials are there. When I was young, I have never used, in my 5 years, the only cloth I have used was the khaki, going to school. My mother and the weaver were producing all the clothing that we require. Those weaving materials are still there before they get lost. So we thank you very much for coming up with this motion to ratify this very important convention so that we join nations that are protecting their historical artifacts. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the time.
Thank you very much, Member for Woolly East. I now give the floor to the Member for Birkama North and Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Minister made reference to Minister of Tourism, and I want to believe UNESCO's engagement with the National Assembly Select Committee on Tourism. Precisely, this was about 2 years ago on this convention and other conventions as well. We are sensitized on these conventions, and we gave them our blessing that the August Assembly will stand to ensure the conventions are ratified. One came, that was the underwater artifacts, as mentioned by Honorable Member for Woolly East. And today this other one came. And we want to commend the Ministry of Tourism, as well as the National Center for Arts and Culture, for the effort that they have made to ensure these conventions early before the August Assembly ratification. The convention is or was adopted way back 1970. I think one may not wonder whether it has not been signed to. Of course, it could be a question that one may ask because an incident happened here last week, so that we are not confronted with that kind of scenario to ratify something that the nation is not a signatory to. I believe that's not the case. Thank you. Now, therefore, as alluded earlier on by the previous speakers, it's long overdue. Since 1970, important thing like this not ratified. We've missed a lot. And I believe if we are to go by the objects of the convention, we'll get back to our stolen artifacts. In doing so, we should also be prepared to upgrade our National Museum. The one that we have, I don't think, will be that spacious enough to accommodate these artifacts. They are going to attract a lot of tourists, both domestic and international. And therefore, Honorable Minister, we urge you to put into consideration the upgrading of our National Museum. Honorable Speaker, I want to recall when we were adopting the Underwater Convention, a lot of suggestions were advanced to the Minister.
Minority, I'm not sure whether there is another session. Who is the speaker down there? Is that the Women Caucus? Who is your speaker? We apologize for interruption, sorry. Okay, Minority, continue.
A lot of suggestions were advanced when we were dealing with that particular convention ratifying. Among them, reviving the river transportation. And we were highly promised that that is going to put into consideration, the ministry will work towards that. I'm not sure whether we are in that move. And then we are coming with this one. We are making suggestions. If we are to go for the ratification, we are anticipating that the ministry will endeavor to retrieve all these stolen artifacts in the soonest possible time. In trying to anticipate that, of course, as I said earlier on, let's put at the back of our mind that there is that great deal of need to upgrade our national museum. The mausoleum here would not be spacious to accommodate these attractive artifacts. That is my take, Honorable Minister. Having said so, let me once more thank the ministry. And the ministry again, the National Center for Arts and Culture. I think this is an area that tourism ministry should endeavor to give them all the support necessary so that our culture is promoted. They have the vision, they have the interest to promote our culture. But I have the belief and feeling that they are under-resourced in their bid to promote the culture. And this is where the ministry can attack. We cannot rely on only the beach. Our culture, the tourists are interested to know our culture, to explore our culture. Yes, the beach can be an addition. The one that is so dear and rich, that is our culture. If National Center for Arts and Culture is supported, fully resourced, honestly, we can use our culture immensely to promote our tourism. This is one way to do, but a lot can be done if we venture into giving enough resources to National Center for Arts and Culture so that our culture can be promoted. Our youngs can be taught about our culture. And then we learn a lot what our culture is. That is a take, Honorable Minister. On that note, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Birkama North. I now invite the member for Banjul North. He's out. The member for Basse. Are you also out? I'm going to jump you. All right. The member for Basse.
Speaker, you made a mistake. It's Banjul Central, not Banjul North. You wrote Banjul North. It's a mistake from your end. He wasn't here all along.
Okay. I'll come to you after Joshua. The member for Joshua. Basse is out. I called him, he didn't take the floor. Member for Joshua, please, you have the floor.
Honorable Speaker, he was rectifying you.
For Joshua, please have the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also join my colleagues to thank the Honorable Minister for representing the Honorable Minister of Tourism. Honorable Speaker, I think I will start with the motion. Just at the last point, and transfer of ownership of cultural properties. Transfer of ownership. What are they transferring to us? Something that belongs to us is now being transferred to us. Through what? I think it should be transfer of stolen properties to us. Because it's not something that belongs to them. It's ours. They stole it and took it away from us. Now they are transferring it back to us. The ownership is no more, it's ours. They never own it. So I think the Honorable Minister for Justice will help us to file a case against them and then let them pay us back and then we have claims. Honorable Minister of Justice, I think we have to start filing a case against them. Honorable Speaker, I think the convention is timely, though they are saying it is late, but no option. We thank those who fought for it to happen. I heard through the minister's speech, Felwin Sar is a brother. Congratulate him for his job well done. And then also bring it back to the cultural heritage that we are missing. The artifacts that we are missing. What should we do to recover them? When they are back in the Gambia, what should we do to make sure that they are here for good? They are here to serve our purpose. Honorable Speaker, I think it's not only meant for tourists. We are our young ones. Even some of us need to go and then learn through those things and then teach it to our kids. But if it's only meant for tourism, then our kids are nowhere to know what our ancestors were doing. When it comes to the Gambia, this is not only centered only on tourists. I went to Belgium. There's a museum in Belgium called the Black Museum. When I was there, I asked questions and they started explaining. I cannot just take it. Because it's like our own people were killed in that area. They were put in that, sealed in that area. Those who were forced from Congo to come and dance for the Belgians. After spending the whole day there, they passed away, and then they were parked in that area as a museum, so that white people come and visit and then start telling them stories of our own people. Honorable Speaker, it is time now we start taking things that belongs to us. Enough is enough. They came here, they forced us to slavery. They came here, they disunited us. They came here, they took everything that belongs to us. Now they are saying that they are giving it back to us. Out of what? Nothing. Because I didn't see anywhere they say there will be a compensation. Compensation of what? I think Honorable Minister of Justice will start, please file a case against them, and they give us back our funds and our materials, and also a lot of money to take care of our new museum. I think there should be condition that is that we need those money to build new museum for ourselves, but not only to give us the artifacts and then bring it back to us here. Let them pay us and we build new museum as a compensation. Honorable Speaker, I don't think that will not be much time. We look at it and then see that it is to our best interest, then we pass it on. So that, and then after everything, I think it is now high time for the needful to be done, for the follow-up to be done. Let's not only sign, rectify, and then that's the end. Let's sign, rectify, and then see that it was done during this time, it was rectified during our time, and we have achieved this during this time. But not only every time when it comes here, we rectify, take it back, it is there, no follow-up, nothing is being done. When even the day that they will even go and get those artifacts, it might be a problem, because they are saying that it's no cost to us. But it will be a cost to us, because when we are going, we must pay air tickets and go there. So are they going to foot those bills for us? Are we only going there with empty hands and then give us everything? What belongs to us belongs to us. So, Honorable Speaker, I think just to rest my case, I'm in support of it. I will support it. But please, let's do the needful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I now invite the member for Banjul Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll try to be as brief as possible. But, I wouldn't do justice to this without putting in some few words. Because when we talk about the subject matter at hand here, I think Gambia is very historically strategically historic country. We are not only things based on artifacts and other things, but we have a very rich history. And I think we have, I'm seeing here Mr. Hassoum Cisse, he's the Executive Director of Arts and Culture, who's been doing a very good job in making sure, as a curator and a writer, making sure that most of these histories that you guys are saying are being well documented and preserved. However, when it comes to these artifacts, we would need them in our national library, in our national museum, because most of these stories, they need tangible items that can back up those stories. So I would just like to also make mention of, the honorable members did make mention of trying to refurbish the museum. I think that is very timely, because it's the only place that we have currently, I would say. It's the only place that houses the Gambian history. The museum usually is only used when we have tourists or we have friends from abroad. But I doubt if us ourselves, even once in a while, even walk there frequently and visit the museum. If I was to ask the honorable members, when last did we visit the museum, I think not many will attest to it. So I think we also have a role to play in making sure we, through our budgetary allocations as well, do consider them. And it's also important because the National Museum is in my constituency. So I think this time around, when the budget session comes, I think I'll be doing a little bit of lobbying in Parliament. I'm not lobbying for myself, but generally it's for the entire nation. At least it's good to advocate for us to have external support, but I think we should also look internally to make sure we also do our part in making sure we contribute towards the enhancement of the museum. Because once we make efforts and have a very state-of-the-art museum, it will help us to be able to brand the country better, to be able to project the Gambian image and our cultural history so as to be able to attract more tourists, I would say. With regards to the declarations, here I did see in the ratification that UK and France especially some time ago declared that some artifacts are actually Gambian owned. So I don't know, even through the ECOWAS process, what some honorable member for Talinding Kunjang made mention if we do have an inventory of some of these items that we think or believe that are ours. I don't know how these things work, but I think it's not ideal to be waiting for these foreign countries to declare that we have certain assets in their museums to be able, for us to be able to go and try to see if we could repatriate this item. So I would need clarity on that. I think that is very important to be able to claim, to be able to make a proper inventory to claim these things. So I would just leave it at that, Honorable Speaker. And I think currently, if you go to the Western countries, especially the UK, you will see a large gold reserves. They have very vast gold reserve in their country. There's actually no gold there. Everything was imported from, exactly, they were stolen items from the colonial eras. So I think if through the ECOWAS, I would say proceedings and their own way of, they have their own mandate, I think, as to how they work out these things. But I think we could do our level best, Gambia, to channel it through the ECOWAS to make sure that, and through UNESCO, to make sure we have an inventory of all the things that are ours and find ways and means as to how to retrieve those things. So on that note, Honourable Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Banjul Central. I now give the floor to the member for Basse.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. First of all, I have to thank the Honorable Minister for Tourism and his line department, that is the National Center for Arts and Culture, who is represented here by their director, Mr. Hassoum Cisse, and also to thank the Honorable Minister for Justice, who was here with us throughout the day for representing the Minister of Tourism in tabling this treaty. Honorable Speaker, as the member for Talinding alluded, it's better late than never. I think this treaty was long overdue. Looking at it was signed in 14 November 1970 and came into effect on the 24th of April 1972. Honorable Speaker, I think looking at this treaty and the objectives in this treaty, I think the Minister of Tourism for their 2024 budget, we expect chunk of it should go to National Center for Arts and Culture if they really mean what is in this document. If they want to make a consideration to this treaty, I think they will allocate most of their budgets to national arts and culture. Honorable Speaker, cultural properties are Achilot's political histories, histories, literature, arts, and science. And also you have cultural heritages which are tangible and intangible. The tangible ones are the buildings, monuments, books, work of arts, and artifacts. The intangible ones are false care, traditions, language, and knowledge. And I think the white men have stolen all the tangible ones. The last which they came for was our language. They came to our African countries. They even understudy, read our language, and they can speak it very fluently. Some of them can even speak the language more than us even. And that was the last thing they were left with to come and steal. Honorable Speaker, I don't think I will waste a lot of time because we have another bill before here and time is already gone. Most of the members who have spoken have touched a lot about our history, and I know most of them are historians, and they also touch a lot of our historical heritages within our country. But it's unfortunate, Africa or Gambia, we don't value what we have until people will come and benefit out of it. A typical example was in China, when we went to China, looking at some of their historical heritages, which they jealously guard, and they are making a lot of fortunes out of them every day. And the closest area or place that is our neighbor, that is Senegal. If you go to Trouba Kansala here, and I know the how to call it, I don't know how do they call them even. The nyanchos are not around now. We don't have nyanchos. We have artificial nyanchos now. The Trouba Kansala here, Senegal, or the communities of Kansala, they are making a lot of money out of that war zone, which I think Gambia have a lot of them, a lot of historical areas or cultures within the country, which we never value up to now. I was looking at all the regions within the country. There are so many historical heritages we have, and we never even care. But what do we tell our kids or our people? This was where our forefathers were. This was where we do this, this is where we do that. But we never value them. And Honorable Speaker, the only thing I'm going to touch on was the Honorable
After claiming that was
yes.
you open
The Honorable,
another page.
Honorable Upper Saloum member do mention certain points which are very key and vital to consider. That is allocating a land and build at least a modern museum where at least most of our heritages or artifacts will be stored. And it's not stopped only at the Greater Banjul area. It should be built across the country where all the regions will have one museum across the country. Honorable Speaker, let me just stop here and allow others to intervene because time is not on our side. And the major leader have failed us. He said there is no dinner. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, the member for Basse. I now give the floor to the member for Sanementre.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I'll make a very short comment or deliberation on this issue, Honorable Speaker, and of course, that will lead me to join my honorable colleagues to ratify this UNESCO convention. as I seated here, or as I was sitting here, Honorable Speaker, when I just raised up my head and had Sani mentoring being part of this convention or whatsoever, I nearly got up, jumped up and danced, because Sani mentoring has a very important historical place, of course, in Brufut, which the name, we brought up the name, Sani mentoring, of course, and which I am here representing the constituency called Sani mentoring constituency, of course. And if I should hear that from the convention that we are to ratify in the parliament, of course, and then hear that Sani mentoring, the historical part of Sani mentoring, which just got missing and it was nowhere to be found. So if I should see that to be part of this convention or whatsoever, historical place to be recovered by this country, of course, I should not hesitate, or I will not hesitate of joining my colleagues to ratify this convention. So on that note, Honorable Speaker, I will directly join my colleagues to ratify this convention. Thank you.
Thank you. The member for Tumanna. I now invite the member for Tumanna.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister for Tourism and Culture and the line agencies, that is the NCA. And thank you very much, Honorable Minister for Justice, for representing the Minister of Tourism. Artifacts and history, we all know that Gambia has rich history, and by reclaiming these artifacts, of course, this will help us to have our history written by ourselves, because actually our history is written by these white people, and a lot of things, lot of omissions are created there. So therefore, if we have our artifacts, then this will help us to write our own history, and therefore we will know where we are from, so we will know where to go. This convention is very, very important, even though it's long overdue, but it's very important, and I am joining my colleagues for us to ratify the convention, as this convention has nothing, doesn't go against the sovereignty of the Gambia, and of course it doesn't have, it has no financial implication or minimal financial implication. So for those reasons, I will join my colleagues to ratify the convention. The case of the National Museum, of course, Gambia needs to have a state-of-the-art National Museum by now, because when we have these artifacts, we must have a place to house them. So for that being the case, and the places that we are having right now, they are very, very small to house those ones. So therefore, as a National Assembly member from Tumanna and also from Tambasansang, which is also part of the story here, I am very, very, very much delighted to receive this convention and join my colleague to ratify it. On that note, Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much.
Thank you. May I now call upon the mover to respond the issues raised and to wind up the debate. Minister. I said, please, Honorable Minister. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And thank you, honorable members, for the overwhelming support to the ratification of the 1970 UNESCO Convention on Restitution of some of the items that were taken from here. As a matter of response to some of the issues raised, the Kunta Kinte Island have been informed and happy to inform the Assembly that the Kunta Kinte Island will be reclaimed in the ongoing World Bank project that is going on. So the reclamation is part of the World Bank project. On the issue of inventory, there is no complete inventory of all Gambian objects in foreign museums. However, with this ratification now, it will be possible for Gambia to do a thorough investigation on the inventories of other museums. We are happy to also inform this August Assembly that Gunjur Kenya Kenya Mosque, Bintang Old Trading Station, Carol's Wharf, Sane Mentereng, BANJUL Printing House are to be made national monuments for the full protection. And finally, it's important we also inform you that river transport will upgrade of heritage sites along the river is part of the World Bank project that is currently going on. And this will affect Kunta Kinte Island, Stone Circle, Kuntaur, Mango Park, Bintang, and all river jetties as well. So these are some of the responses I gather for some of the key issues that were raised. And I thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And also I want to thank honorable members for participating in the debate. Let me now put the question. Be it resolved that this Honorable Assembly do ratify the UNESCO Convention on the means of prohibiting and preventing the illicit import, export, and transfer of ownership of cultural property. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. Clerk, we may proceed.
Thank you. Motion. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do consider and adopt the Charter for the Rights and Dignity of Women, Girls and Women with Disabilities in the Gambia by the Honorable Chairperson of the Chairperson of the Committee on Gender, Children and Social Welfare, ably represented by Honorable Swaibu Toure.
Honorable.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
What happened?
Yeah, consulting. Okay, thank you, Honorable. Honorable, we've consulted and we've agreed that we would wish to withdraw this document for now, do further consultations, and maybe eventually come back to lay it. Thank you very much.
Honorable Member Fulis, yes, please, you may go ahead and move a motion to withdraw.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wish to move a motion to withdraw the charter for the rights and dignity of women, girls, and women with disabilities in the Gambia till further notice. Thank you.
Any seconder? Member for nominated member Maimuna Sise.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion.
It has been moved and seconded for the withdrawal of the motion on the Charter for the Rights and Dignity of Women, Girls, and Women with Disabilities in the Gambia. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is withdrawn. I want to thank all of you for the time since morning to now, and also the Attorney General and Minister of Justice to commend him, and the line ministries who were here to table their business before us, and also taking note of the concerns and issues raised by members of the National Assembly. I now put the question: be it resolved that this Honorable Assembly this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Wednesday, 13 September 2023. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no.
That's why I raised my hand. We've been here up to this time, and before some of us get to our home, it will be around 1. And if you want to bring us by 10, it will be can we make it 11? Please.
Because the problem is, if we move it to 11, NAMs won't show up until 1 o'clock or midday. And we should try. Remember, we have notified members of the executive to be here by 10. And it is late now to send a notification for them to reschedule. Maybe some of them must have changed their itinerary. But let's try to be here at 10 o'clock. Remember, we are all enjoying our Please, honorable members, let's take our seat. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Wednesday, 13 September 2023. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Assembly now stand adjourned until Wednesday, 13 September 2023 at 10 a.m. prompt.